here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have open phones throughout this third and final hour of this Friday transmission. I will be back Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central live. And, of course, we'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock Central time with InfoWars Nightly News. I've got a ton of news coming up. Bathroom cameras in Russia. Oh, Russia's got its share of Big Brother problems. I'm going to tie that into Kentucky police set up eating while driving checkpoints. Illegal checkpoints. They just put the cop up there announcing the criminal activity like it's no big deal. We're going to talk about that. Brain implants hold promise for restoring combat memory loss. More news coming up. But first, your phone calls. Let's talk to Steve in Ohio. Let's talk about Bob Barr. Go ahead.
Hello, Alex. I've been following you since you first came out, bought your first video. I've been listening ever since you first started on the air.
No, you just reminded me. I said Bob Barr's not perfect. Under the heat and the pressure of it, he supported the Patriot Act. Later, he criticized it. I think that's one reason he left Congress. Next time he's on, I'll raise the Patriot Act with him.
Yeah, I would appreciate it if you could try to get the man who is running in my district, Congressional District 14 here in the state of Ohio. We have a real Liberty candidate who was one of 6 Liberty candidates, Tea Party candidates, that we managed to get elected. The Ohio Republican Party was coming after their seats. He was smart enough not to just get the petitions to get back on the ballot for his state representative seat, but he also got the petitions to run for Congress against David Joyce here in Ohio, who was given the ballot position for Steve LaTourette.
Sure. Well, just so you know, Bob Barr is a national figure. He's probably going to get back in. If he gets support, he'll be more of a libertarian. I think he's a good guy overall. He's done a lot of great work. I agree with you. He's done some things I don't like, and I should have raised that, and I'd forgotten that. Next time he's on, I'll bring it on. But if I remember, I've brought it up to him before, and he said, well, that was an earlier version, then it got changed, and it was the political pressure, and it's been misused, and now I believe areas of it should be repealed. In fact, I know he said that, and so that's why I kind of put that to bed in my brain as political. But here's the deal. I try to promote Campaign for Liberty. I try to promote a lot of people out there politically who are libertarians, and I just say support libertarians running as Republicans in your area. And talk about how important it is. The problem is I get besieged by folks that are going to run for Congress or run for State House. And my problem is if I can't remember what Bob Barr did that made me upset, how do I vet all these people that folks want me to have on? And then it just becomes a big political drumbeat. You see what I'm saying?
It did score 100% on the Campaign for Liberty questionnaire, candidate's questionnaire, when he was running for state representative. And he was forced basically to have to run for Congress against David Joyce because the Republican Party was coming after his seat because he would not toe the party line.
I know. The rhinos and the Republican leadership are there to absolutely keep people on a short leash. Look, the Republican establishment's gone after Bob Barr before. And that's what I'm telling you is they want absolute Boehner type, John Boehner types, who'll go play golf or whatever with Obama. Zombie or whatever his name is. I'm sick of it. Good to hear from you, Steve. It's just, I'm just saying, it would kill the show in short order if I started just having the hundreds of candidates on talking about what they're doing and this guy and that guy in the state. 95% of our audience, isn't in Ohio, and they don't know what you're talking about is the problem. So people just need to support those people in their areas.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.
There are more articles out today about how video games are brain damaging children. And I love how all the video game heads will get real aggressive and say, hey, my games aren't a problem. I can do whatever I want. And I'm like, fine, go ahead. I do stuff that's bad for me, too. Eat too much, stuff like that. All I'm telling you is that if you play video games once a week for fun as a distraction, it's healthy. Studies show that. And they've got some games that teach you math and stuff like that. I let my kids play. But on average, it's destroying social skills. It's destroying the language. It's rewiring the brain. It's lowering IQ. It is a fact. And television does the same thing if it's not interactive. When I say interactive, our broadcast is really like a film book. We have articles, we have documents, we have video feeds. In radio, you have to image what I'm saying. That makes neural connections and increases IQ and cognitive function in every study. Look it up. Reading, you have to image it all, so that gives you a brain boost, even more than radio. Flat out, spectator television is so weaponized, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a new story. Video game leaves teenagers morally immature, a study reports. That's just an example. But I just love how video game folks, if they think you're even criticizing it, they get so angry. They get so mad. And they go, well, why are you in video games then? You're in a bunch of them. Not a bunch. I think I've done voiceovers for 3 big video games. A couple, they just stuck me in without asking me. But look, the whole point is, sure, put me in all of them. I don't care. The whole point is we're trying to take over the culture for liberty. We're trying to hijack things for liberty. Speaking of hijacking, Turkey, we're going to your calls. Turkey F-16 scrambled. How do you say the name of that Russian town? You think I'd know it. Sochi. Turkey F-16 scrambled to foil Sochi hijack attempt, AFP reports. Turkey scrambled a jet Friday to force down an airliner from Ukraine after a would-be hijacker on board to Sochi, where the Winter Olympics opening ceremony was underway. Turkish officials said. Turkish media reported the Ukrainian man brandishing a detonator, a thermal detonator, tried to gain access to the cockpit of the Airbus A320 aircraft operating by Turkey Pegasus Airlines. He was overpowered by security forces after the airliner landed at Istanbul's Sabiha Gökçen Airport. A Pegasus Airlines plane with 110 people on board had to land at the airport because of a passenger who threatened passengers with a bomb. And it could be a crazy, could be a real extremist, but it's probably a mentally ill, drugged-up person that an intelligence agency put on the plane. And because we know that with the underwear bomber from 4 or 5 years ago, that was completely staged. That came out. We had eyewitnesses that saw it, but it later broke, even in Congress on C-SPAN. And you've seen the Saudi intelligence saying we're going to bomb and attack the Olympics because you're not letting us have Syria. I mean, this is really a serious situation. And they have been hyping up that Russia isn't safe and the Olympics aren't safe to create fear and sell the idea that we've got to live in a police state to be safe, but also to discredit Russia. And not that Russia needs a lot of help discrediting itself. Old Soviet habits die hard. We've adopted them here. Russian official, CBS Radio reports, threatens that hotel surveillance video records you in the shower and in the toilets. And they said, so don't try to flood the buildings. Don't try to leave the water on. And don't pee on the floor. I'm not joking. This is what it actually says. Because we're watching you. And did you know for at least 15 years, they have cameras at highway rest stops in the toilets, like above the toilets. And they've gone in public schools the last 15 years, all over the place. And I used to tell people like a local news article about it. Back before this was well known, people would go, you crazy liar. There's not cameras in the bathrooms at high schools. There's no NSA spying on us. There's no need to fear. Big government is here. You can keep your doctor. If you have a business, you didn't build that. It's now Underdog / meets Marvin the Martian. Maybe that should be the new voice for Obama whenever we're talking about him. Family of woman who led cops on Capitol car chase suing police. Yeah, that poor woman ran into a checkpoint, got scared and ran. And she didn't have any reason to run. She only got killed. I mean, there's nothing to be afraid of, poor lady. So that's just some of the bizarroness that's going on. I got a bunch of news. It's really important, but I'm going to go to your calls as promised. I'm going to try to move to each caller quickly, so get ready. We're going to go to Mike, then we're going to go to Lou and Frederico and Mike and Robert. So start your engines. Mike in California, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, brother, thanks for having me. How you doing today?
I'm good, brother. Good to talk to you.
You too, brother. Hey, sipping on some of that coffee. You guys got to go out and get it. Some of the best stuff I've had. I look at the Olympics real quick. It's funny. All these horror stories, you hear all these journalists come out flooding with stories from hotels, etc., and yet that is where we're moving in this country. We look over at Russia and say, oh, my God, that's horrible. And whether it's conditions of living, surveillance, that's what we're moving towards. Lastly, wanted to get your opinion on the attacks on our grid out here in California. I've got a relative with PG&E who says they really just hid the terrorist aspect of that to, again, drum up fear later on. But they check on us with these checkpoints and yet don't watch our power grids. Want to get your thoughts on that, brother.
Well, the checkpoint is meant to train you where they fully control the population. There's no Fourth Amendment, and everyone is a slave until completely destroyed. Not even guilty until proven innocent. We're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Now we're guilty until proven innocent. Now we're just guilty, 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 guilty. And from California to Kentucky, they have all these federally funded checkpoints where we're going to make sure you're not eating. We're going to make sure we're going to rifle through the vehicle. Meanwhile, the government's totally run by criminals. We're overrun just by tyranny. It's a great point. But, yeah, Russia is trying to reform itself and trying to go in the right direction. Though Putin's had to crack down, and I don't even agree with what he's done, because the West is trying to overthrow his country. Just like the West is trying to overthrow and destroy Ukraine. They want to destroy Ukraine because once they've done that, they can come in and buy it up for pennies on the dollar. That's why these new State Department recordings that were probably recorded by the Russians or somebody, the State Department's freaking out about their phone calls being released. Not only the West has an NSA, folks, and it's the ambassador on the horn with a State Department official, and the audio's up on Infowars.com. There's a bunch of cussing. I'm not going to play it. And they're like, F Russia, F the EU, bring down the country. And that's what the goal is. They don't, it's just order out of chaos. It's destroy everything. And that's what they do. Let's go, thank you, Mike. Let's go to Lou in Pennsylvania. You're on the air talking about the most beautiful woman. Her heart is beautiful. The most wonderful, truth-telling, wholesome woman in the world, Hillary Rodham. Oh, my goodness, make her President Clinton. And, of course, if I don't like Hillary when she runs, it's because I'm against women. Just like if you don't like Obama, you're against blacks. It's not that he's a horrible person. Go ahead, Lou. You're on the air.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I can't imagine how she could possibly be considered a front runner for the next presidential election.
I can't imagine that young women like her. Well, can you imagine if you were a young woman getting in bed with Janet Reno or somebody like Hillary Clinton? I mean, I'm sorry I have to talk like that, but let's just get down to brass tacks. This is. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, when Vince Foster was killed, just like immediately, Bill and Hillary came out saying, oh, what a terrible thing, he committed suicide. And coming to that conclusion, when it seems to me the circumstances were quite suspicious, that at the least they would have some reserve and hold back judgment on how he died, and then to see this evidence that came out about what was really not a suicide at all. With Vince Foster.
Oh, no.
And
Hillary's a nice person. She never did anything wrong. She's a nice lady.
What do you think of the Clinton Chronicles? It's this long, documentary.
Oh, yeah, I used to air it. I used to air it on Access Television when it first came out, like in 1996. And then they had a couple more came out of that. That was Jeremiah Films. I've interviewed the head of Jeremiah Films many times, and who's one of the main witnesses on there? I've interviewed him so many times. He talks even more like this than me. What's his name? It'll pop in my head in a minute. But, yeah, no, it's... No, and you know how bad the Clintons are, and then they try to make them like Hollywood stars. Look how beautiful Hillary is. Look how wonderful Michelle Obama is. Michelle Obama looks like a snapping turtle or something. I mean, you know. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. I'm not saying this is a good thing, it might be a bad thing, but in the old days, at orphanages and at homes for disabled children, they would take the teenage boys that were aggressive and fighting each other and have weekly boxing matches. Because they found if you let everybody fight in there, people don't get hurt as bad and they get their energies out. That's probably what happened here. CBS News reports Hampton's group home workers allegedly ran developmentally disabled fight club. Well, I mean, I know people, and I was just talking to a guy today who has a good friend who's a powerlifting coach, and, you know, he runs the schools, basically, the Down syndrome group for a big Houston school. He was telling me for all those kids to go in there and power lift and all the rest of it, and they got boxing things for them and everything. But now, if you do that, well, you're going to go to jail. So there you go. But then they'll just go out and beat each other to death on the side of the street instead of in a boxing match. I remember getting in fights when I was in 8th grade, and the coaches would then go and get boxing gloves. It's only happened a few times because that was being phased out then. And would say, all right, go ahead, after school, go ahead and beat the hell out of each other. And we weren't mad at each other at the point, ended up being friends, but we'd end up punching each other for about 30 minutes. And now you're going to go run around the field 10 times and then laugh at us. And they just don't do those rites of passage anymore, folks. And that's what's going on here. Now, it's one thing if you make prisoners fight, and that's an old tradition. And some of that's come out in the news, but they can just turn anything into something bad now. And this might be. If they're making them do it or something, it's a bad thing. Let's talk to Mike in New York. Mike, you're on the air. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, great to speak with you, Alec.
Hey, buddy.
You had me cracked up there about Hillary description, a pile of dog crap. Maybe it should be the reverse of your police issue of the magazine with you on the cover and the horns in the background. Maybe she could have a halo on her head.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I can use childish humor against her because she's already committed every crime. We can already politically show all the horrible things she's done. But I'm just sick of her being promoted like a celebrity. Her and Michelle Obama, I mean, they're two snapping turtles, man. Two crazy-looking, crazy-eyed looking ugly women. And I got to hear all day about how beautiful and smart they are. And I mean, I'm just sick of it. I mean, they just force-feed us this political class of scum, and then no one is allowed to criticize them in the mainstream media. They're fired. I'm done. I mean, I'm sick of Hillary Clinton in my life. I'm sick of her. Aren't you sick of her?
Absolutely. I could go on with the story, but let me get to my other points. You just chuckled me so much. A little astro trivia for yourself and your listeners. I think today was the first time I heard you. You're going to turn 40 next Tuesday. Who do you share that birthday with, month and day? One of your great mentors and mine as well.
I know Burt Reynolds has the same birthday.
Really? Try George Washington.
I think he does. Guys, look up George Washington the date he was born. Lincoln's the day after. If I have George Washington's birthday, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I like George Washington.
Absolutely. Let me get into my main story. I've had been on disability since cancer surgery last spring, and I've been in business for 35 years and got nothing to show for it. But what I've relied on is the basic SNAP programs and the HEAP benefits and so on and so forth. So we've recently had, after the elections, a change in county executives, which was a different party until he brings all his cronies in. We got a temporary acting social service commissioner. And I filed online for my recertification, which is required every 6 months biannually for the SNAP program. And I got a call from a vocal interview over the phone, and to make a long story short, what they're telling me now is that if only I pay my expenses like property and school taxes, are they recognized? So I contacted my newly elected congressman, which, by the way, Sean Patrick Maloney, is only the second homosexual gay in Congress to get married or to be married.
I want to know what you think of Cuomo saying if you're pro-life or pro-gun, get out of the state. That is an outrageous, impeachable statement to tell people get out of the state if I don't agree with you by this chief law enforcement officer. It's pretty outrageous. Good to hear from you. Very interesting.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.